Borodar St Andrews, it's Mrs Nicholas here with today's assembly. So a big Borodar to year 3, 4 and 5 who will be listening at the Correct, and a Borodar to Blwyddyn Chwech who are listening here with me at Lisbury High. Now last week we did an assembly all about what was going to happen with our reports, because we said that they were changing and that you were going to have a bit of an input on them this year. And we talked about these 8 words that you may or may not have heard of before, and they were all linked to the new curriculum. So as you're listening to my assembly today, I just want you to have a think. Which of these do you think you will have demonstrated or shown during this assembly? But my first little challenge, you'll notice there's a few little challenges throughout today's assembly, is to think about what those 8 words are. Now I've given you a bit of a clue, and I've given you the starting letter for each of them. And another bit of a clue, which sometimes helps my class, is that we remember that they often come in pairs, which might give you a bit of a helpful hint at remembering them. So I'm going to give you maybe 30 seconds. Your teacher may decide to pause the video now to give you enough time to have a little think or a little chat about what those 8 words that are linked to the new curriculum and those 4 purposes could be. Right, let's see if you remembered them. So we said we had ambitious and capable, we had ethical and informed, we had creative and enterprising, and healthy and confident. So fingers crossed you remembered at least some of them from either the assembly last week or some of the work that your teachers may have been doing in class with you. And as I said, what I would like you to do is after this assembly, have a little think. Which of these skills do you think you might have demonstrated during this assembly? So, as I said, my assembly today is filled with lots of little challenges just to make sure that you are listening really carefully and to get you involved. So we're going to play a little game which is called Just a Minute. Now, what you're going to have is a minute, obviously, which you are going to use. You can either just think of them, or you might have the chance to talk to the person next to you, depending on what your teacher says. How many different religions can you think of? Okay. So we have lots of different children that follow lots of different religions here at St Andrews and across Wales and across the world. So I want you to have a think. How many different religions can you think of? So I'm going to give you a minute, or your teacher's going to time a minute. How many can you think of starting now? Now, I wonder, how many religions did you manage to think of during that game of Just a Minute? Do you think of maybe 5 or 6? Or did you really have your thinking caps on, and did you maybe think of slightly more, maybe 10 or 11? Now, I know that there are lots of different religions because we have lots of different children and adults that follow different religions here at St Andrews, and it's the same thing around the whole world, but I didn't quite realise how many different religions there were. Now, around the world, there are over 4,300 different religions that people follow. Now, on the next slide, I've included the top 10 different religions by the number of followers that they have. So we've got the most popular religion, which has the most followers, which is Christianity, that has 2.1 billion followers. Now, in the world right now, there are just over 7 billion people that are living right now. So if you think 2.1 billion of them are Christians who follow the religion of Christianity. We've then got Islam then in second place with 1.3 billion. Then it goes all the way down to the 10th place by the number of followers, which is Judaism, which has 17 million people who follow the religion of Judaism. Now that fits in perfectly with our assembly this morning, because we are going to be learning all about a Jewish celebration called Shavuot. Okay, so over the next few minutes, we're going to be having a little think, a little talk about what Shavuot is, how Jewish people celebrate it, and when it takes place. So this year it takes place between the 16th and 18th of May. So 2 different days. Okay, so what is Shavuot? So Shavuot is a Jewish harvest festival, and it marks the start of the wheat harvest and the end of the barley harvest. It's also known as the festival or feast of weeks. It's a 2-day festival which takes place 7 weeks or 50 days after the spring festival of Passover. So as I said, this year it starts on the 16th of May, which was on Sunday, and it finishes today on the 18th of May. So it all stems from a very historic event, and it happened a very, very long time ago, so more than 3,300 years ago. So Shavuot coincides with the date that Jews celebrate God giving them the Torah on Mount Sinai in modern-day Egypt more than 3,300 years ago. And it's written that Moses led the Jews out of slavery and was given instructions by God by which all Jews should live by. And this is called Torah or law. So it's also a spiritual event, and apart from commemorating a historic event, the giving of the Torah is recognised as an important spiritual event as well. It's an event that touches the soul of all Jewish people for all time. And when God gave the Jews the Torah, they believed that he swore his eternal devotion to the people. And in return for this, they pledged their everlasting loyalty to God. Now, lots of Jewish people, as I said, will celebrate this over the past 2 days. And these are some of the things that they might do to commemorate this festival. So they will be saying some prayers that we said on Shavuot, thanking God for the Torah. And they will also light candles as a symbol of their thanks to God as well. Synagogues, which is their religious buildings, are decorated with flowers and spices to remember the flowers on Mount Sinai. During Shavuot, while Jewish people worship in the synagogue, they also listen to a reading of the 10 Commandments and they chant them back as well. And some Jews will stay up all night studying Jewish scripture. This period of studying is called the tikkun. So we can see an image there of the Jewish scripture. So they've also got some food traditions as well. So during Shavuot, dairy products are eaten. And there could be a number of reasons that dairy foods are eaten at this time. But one reason is that Moses was told by God to lead the Israelites out of Egypt to freedom in a land flowing with milk and honey. So as a result, Jews eat milk-based foods to symbolise this promise that they made. Now, some of these foods look absolutely delicious. So a typical Shavuot meal would consist of the following things. So we've got blintzes. Now these are small rolls of crepe batter with different fillings. So you might have mushrooms and cheese or spinach and cheese, and they sound totally delicious. We've then got lemon and herb baked halibut, and this is a refreshing light meal with gently seasoned pan-fried fish. We've then got stuffed pasta shells, and these shells are large and stuffed with a cheesy filling and cooked in a tomato sauce. And then as a dessert, they then have a cheesecake, and it says even cheese, which is obviously a dairy product, features in the dessert as well. Now I wonder if you were taking part in this festival and these celebrations, which one of these would be your favourite food? So quite a tricky one. I think mine would probably be the blintzes. They sound delicious, and it's like something I've never had before, but it sounds super tasty. Now, in the modern day, over the years, people have worn white and had processions in celebration of the harvest during the period of Shavuot. And nowadays, Jews tend to go to their local synagogue and share a special meal with their family. And a little bit like what Mrs. Palmer was talking about last week when we were looking at the celebration of Eid, which obviously took place last Thursday, obviously this year is going to be a little bit different because of the restrictions that are in place. It might be that it's going to be maybe a more smaller, more intimate celebration with people that are from their household rather than the slightly larger celebrations they would have had at the synagogues. Now, I did say that you'd have to be listening really, really carefully during the assembly today. We're going to finish off with a little game. It's one of my favourite games called Babble Gabble. Now, what you're going to do in a minute is you are going to have 30 seconds to try and tell your partner as much as you can about the celebrations of Shavuot in 30 seconds. Okay? So it might be talking about where it all came from. So how did the celebration start? What types of rituals or things do Jewish people do to celebrate or mark Shavuot? Can you remember the date that it takes place on? Can you remember any of the foods that Jewish people eat to mark this special occasion? So let me know how you get on with your Babble Gabble games. It'll be interesting to see. I can't wait to play with my class in a minute. And then just to finish then, just before we go, I just want you to have a think. Which of these skills do you think you will have demonstrated during this assembly today. So we had our 8 words that we talked about. We had ambitious and capable. We had ethical and informed. We had healthy and confident, and creative and enterprising. I just want you to have a little bit of a think after you've had your game of Babble Gabble. Which of these, and it might be more than one, do you think that you might have demonstrated during this assembly? So we've been learning about other people's cultures and religions. Which one of these, or 2 of these possibly, do you think you might have demonstrated? I'm excited to hear all about your Babble Gabble games, and hopefully I will see you all very soon. Double Key St Andrews, bye!